My name is Mozuku, and I am one of Sokuzan's monks. Sokuzan's teachings and this community depend on your generosity, both through your participation and financially. If you value these teachings and this community, please consider donating on our website at SokukoJi.org. Thank you so much.
So the title, I just gave the title to Ondo, who's also another monk at the monastery, a basic Buddhist teaching. So I was going to talk a little bit about a basic teaching of Buddhism. There's several of them, but this particular one is called the three poisons, or the three ways, the three styles, or the ways in which we avoid looking at what is really true, and looking at who we really are, not what somebody thinks we are, not what we think we are, not anybody's opinion, not our culture, not. You can go all the way down the line. What our friends think we are, all that. We all know about this. It's difficult to find out who you are if everyone is projecting onto you or telling you who you are, and you're getting your identity from so many different places. So sitting practice of meditation that we teach here. I don't know, did you teach any meditation at all?
Myoka gave a brief instruction.
Okay, so you've already sat still and just kind of hung out there for a few minutes. You done that? Okay, how was that? Boring?
It's weird.
Weird? Is it weird? Who said weird? You did? You said weird.
Sorry.
No. I'm sorry. I'm the weird one. No, it is weird. And why would it be weird is because it's such a contrast. Something you've never done, particularly. You come into an environment like this, you sit down and somebody says, sit still, have your eyes open. But I don't know what Myoka said, but probably, what'd you say, Myoka?
I took one of your meditation instructions from 108 Meditations.
So you read something I said. Can you remember what I said? What he said, I said? Can you say what he said, I said? No? So basically it's pretty much the same thing every time. It's very simple. It's not even it's not particularly like a religious thing or some kind of something that is the opposite of what any other spiritual path does, whether it's Christianity or anything else. It's just basically getting in touch with yourself. Sometimes in the other traditions, this is called prayer. In Buddhism, there's also prayer in Buddhism, as you might have noticed with the sutras that were chanted this morning. But the very simple way to get in touch with yourself is to not do much. If you sit down, if you go to your room, sit still, especially if you hold your body still. You don't have to hold it in a particular position, but it is recommended that you sit symmetrically. So the mind is what's called asymmetry. It's off balance. It's going this way, going that way, thinking about this, thinking about that, worry about this, hopeful for this, hope and fear going on. So the idea with meditation is to slowly over time find stability, not by creating artificial stability, which some forms of meditation do that. They teach you to in a different way. The way I teach is to look at the difficulty, look at the emotions or feelings that are challenging or difficult. Just look at them. They're not going to bite you. So you could, when you're feeling really bad, what's the technical word for that? Crappy. That's a good one. You feel crappy. So you might want to just sit still. But do it by yourself. I mean, you could do it with a friend, but you could just sit very still, just for a few minutes. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes or an hour or something like that, but just hold very still and just observe. That's the magic word I use all the time. Just observe what's happening. If you're observing birds fly through the sky, which is very much like watching thoughts run through your mind, you really don't think much about them. You might say, oh, those are ducks, or you might have a little bit of an addition, or those are crows or sparrows. But there's not much of a commentary like, I hate those, or I don't like them, or they shouldn't be flying there. They're flying the wrong direction. We don't have much of an opinion on what's happening with that kind of situation. Whereas in our mind, when something flies through our mind, our thoughts fly through our mind, we don't like that. or we don't want that, or we want to stop that. And this creates further issues or problems or chaos, because anything that is flying through your mind, anything that's flying through your mind needs to be there. Not because it's right, not doing right and wrong here, not in this way of talking about what the Buddha said 2,500 years ago, which is still here. It's a long ongoing tradition through many different countries and cultures. So just watch it, just observe it. It has its own right to be there. So if you're thinking something crappy, then there's something behind that that's causing that to be there. So the way to do that, this is a simple way of saying it. Just make friends with yourself. You don't have to fight with yourself. That's what meditation is about. Very simple description of it, especially for someone who's just beginning. I'm not here to promote you to say everybody should meditate. That's up to you. I trust you to do whatever you want with your life. You can trust yourself. So the three ways that this is a more technical part of Buddhism, the three ways that emotions or situations that arise in the mind are passion, which is one of the three poisons, which is grasping, being greedy, wanting something, trying to get something, wishing we had something. This kind of gimme, that kind of thing's happening in the mind. And the other one is aggression or fighting or warfare or trying to push on something or stop something. Anger is a strong way of that arises. And then the third one, which is much more difficult, maybe you can see this in your own mind, how you can distract yourself from something. It's called ignorance. Everything is, maybe you're having difficulty with grasping, maybe you're having difficulty with anger or aggression, or maybe you're having difficulty with any kind of emotional dynamic. One of the ways that human beings, work with this is to ignore it, to shut it out. Several ways to do that. One is just out and out, don't think about it. You can, pretty hard to do that. Like if you noticed, if you feel really bad, you can't just say, well, I just won't think about that. Anybody have any success with that? If you do, I want to hear about it. I'll start to teach it. So this doesn't mean that you, by sitting still, doing not much of anything called meditation, watching this, won't begin to have an understanding of your own way of dealing with your negativity. This is something about Buddhism and the teachings of Buddha that goes way back to the time of the Buddha. It's about you need to really do this yourself. This is all the Buddha basically said before he passed out of this world, is work it out yourself. Of course, he said it in a different language, but that's what he was saying, I think. So passion, aggression, and ignorance. And you can have some success doing that. It's just that when things go around, they tend to keep going around. So 3 or 4 days might work well, and the next thing you know, you're being flooded with negative difficulty or feeling or bad feelings about something that happened in your life or something someone said or hurt your feelings. So you want to find a way to work with that, and it's very difficult to work with that if you're trying to do it. What do they call what's that word? Transactional. You know what transactional means? No. Well, Zuko, explain that to them. Who does?
Transactional is a transaction, almost like you give one thing to get another thing. That would be like something like a transaction.
So could you repeat what she said? You could repeat it louder.
Something that's transactional is something that you get from giving someone or like something else.
Yes.
Kind of like
Exchange. It's like bartering, or it's like you go to the store and give them money and they give you.
That's a transaction.
Okay. So what I'm saying is when it comes to working with your mind, it has a transactional quality to it, but the basic situation is just receive. Just receive it. A very difficult one to understand. It might take you most of your life to understand that. I'd like some questions if I have some questions. Yes.
How long have you been like a part of this temple?
Maybe 12 years, 14 years, something. Has it been that long?
Mhm.
Yeah. 12, 14 years, something like that. Yes. Anything else? Yes, sir.
The red symbols on the flags that are all around with the circle one and the square, what it does mean?
Garuda?
Oh, the Garuda is a mythical bird. It's not a real bird. It's an invented bird, like a dragon. We've all heard about dragons. Anybody ever seen a dragon? How many have you seen?
3,
Where were they at?
Kazoo school.
Huh?
Kazoo school.
Did you say swimming pool?
What's his name?
At a
School.
school in our neighborhood.
Oh, you saw a dragon, like a green or blue?
No, they were just like painted.
Oh, you didn't see an actual dragon, live dragon with, oh, you saw a picture of a dragon. Gotcha. Okay,
I think the dragon was a symbol for Chinese New Year.
for Chinese New Year's.
Yeah.
I think they use that, part of that. So the dragon, in Tibetan tradition represents inscrutability. In other words, it's the dragon is the mind, your mind is, the mind of the teaching person is like the Buddha is inscrutable. You can't really figure out what their position is. And basically that's because they don't have one. And if you're a mythical character, you can pretty much take on any position you want because you don't really exist fundamentally. The other one is the one you're asking about, the Garuda, for the horns and the wings. That is a, I don't know if it's called a mascot, but something like that. There's a brass image of one as you come in the door of a Garuda back there. And that just represents outrageousness. It means that the teaching, are you listening to me?
Yeah.
Huh? Are you listening? Is everybody listening?
Yeah.
Anybody not listening? Okay. That's why I'm pointing. It's always about awareness. It's never about what you do. This is an important thing, especially for you young people. This doesn't mean you shouldn't do the right thing, as the saying goes, but it's what you do isn't quite as important as what you're aware of. This is what a meditation is about. It's not about worshiping this guy. This is just a chunk of wood. This just represents the nature of your mind. It's just a teacher that lived a long time ago that said some things that were very important that people have decided that they want to continue that. So it's not a religion. It's not a religion you believe in. It's not about believing things. Not that other religions don't do that, and that isn't particularly appropriate. Also, you want to do that. So, where was I at? Garuda. Oh, Garuda. You have a question?
Is there a reason that 2 of the candles are white and that one over there is black? Or is it kind of just
Yes.
match the colors?
No, that's a good question. So the white candles are about promoting the teachings and respecting the teachings and a way of relating to the situation that emphasizes your awareness of everything. And the black candle comes out of the Tibetan tradition. You've heard of Tibet, ancient Tibet. The Tibetan understanding of Buddhism is connected with the ancient indigenous religion of Tibet called Pern, P-O-N, spelled in English. And that is a religion that it's a shamanistic religion, and the protecting principle was very strong there. So that's why that shrine over there, that altar, is a protector shrine. It's to protect this space so that people can come here and train their mind. So it's symbolic. It's just a black candle. It's protecting. Yeah, this is teaching. This is the teaching side of it, and this is the protecting, so that someone can even teach. We have a building which protects this situation so that for the next, whatever, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it may be, that someone can sit up here and talk about something that began 2,500 years ago, that has been transmitted down through the centuries to this moment. Yes, sir.
What's the symbolism behind well, I don't know what it's called, but there's the thing on the table there, the white thing
this
on
one?
the front. Yes,
This
that
is a kotsu, and it just makes me look important. And also I can, if I want to get your attention, I just tap you on the head with it. And it's just, it's traditional, goes back to ancient Japan, goes back hundreds of years. It's a kotsu. One of the monks just made this for me, and engraved my name. It's in Chinese characters on that. It says Sokuzan, which means as it is mountain. So I'm like a mountain, but I'm not any particular mountain. I'm just this mountain. So it's a way of kind of, I don't know, creating more atmosphere. Maybe I sit up on a little platform here, so you know my words are just a little bit more important. Maybe authority. Yes.
What does the art like below the Buddha mean?
All these
The
are on here.
yeah.
There's all different kinds of images here of can anyone, I can't see what she's looking at, and I don't have which
The front one with like the rainbow colors.
can you say? What do you want to say? Someone, can you say?
The top three panels are the first teaching at Deer Park in the Buddha, the traditional teaching,
Up here.
and then on the top three, a little harder to see.
Down here.
And then the down there is I think it's just a generic bodhisattva around different animals.
It's like a bodhisattva is like in Christianity they have saints, and in Buddhism they have bodhisattvas. So yes, a question for way back.
Can you
Yes.
tell us about your dress? I noticed that people have a little bit different dress too.
Yeah, mine's more important. So this is a lightweight. It's the first day I've worn this. It's a lightweight purple one, and it's called a koromo, and it comes from the Chinese tradition, handed down through Japanese tradition, and it's just a robe. This represents the robe of the Buddha, or the Okesa. So this is traditionally a sewn. If someone becomes ordained, they sew this. This I didn't sew this. I can't sew very good. So I bought it. So, but it represents the robe of the Buddha. Yeah. Yes. Sir.
In the chanting, there was mention of the Bodhisattva, but also Mahasattva.
So Bodhisattva means enlightening being. Bodhi is enlightening. Sattva is being, and Mahasattva means great being. So it's very similar. I'm not sure if there's a differentiation there, other than just Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. Quite often those words are put together. Yes.
So I have two questions
Yeah.
for you. One you might know the answer to, one you might not.
Okay.
The first question is, how did you come to Buddhism? What was your path to becoming the leader that you are now?
So the very first thing I saw that represented the first thing when I was a child, I was probably 8 years old. I was in Woolworths. You know what Woolworths is? Yeah, I bet you do. No, I don't know. You don't really look like you do. Huh?
Grandmother. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Woolworths, I saw an incense burner that was in the shape of a Buddha meditating, and I was magnetized by that. And actually, I think my mother bought that for me, and then I lost it. And then I later in an antique store once, 40 years later, found another one just like that. So I still have that one. What was the second question?
So you had a draw to it even as very young.
Yeah, very young. It happened very young. And then the next time I really had a connection with it, you could say intellectually or thinking about it, was I was in the Marine Corps, and my first summer in the Marine Corps, his name was Wetzel, his last name was Wetzel, was laying next to me in Barstow, California, Marine Corps Supply Center. You've been there.
I used to live in Barstow.
Yeah, wonderful place. Great library. That was big. So anyway, I was there at the and this fellow handed this book to me called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. Zen means mind in Buddhism. Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. And he said, what do you make of this? And I read a few lines, and it was totally baffling to me. I had no idea what they were talking about with these koans and Zen stories. But it connected me with that, and I kept going into that and reading about that. Anything further question?
About halfway through the service, this door opened.
Yeah.
Did somebody open it, or did it just fall?
Oh, it's
open?
magic. Just what? I don't know what did happen.
It's probably that another door was open.
Yeah.
So the air just like.
Yeah.
That what happened? What? Yes.
Why is there like a big wooden stick next to you, like on your right side?
The stick?
Yeah, there was a stick. There's like a wooden
That one?
Yeah, that one.
What about it?
Why is it near you? And why do
Well, I can't use it if it's over there. Near me.
you
this
know
is
what
called-
it means?
Yeah, this is called a shipei. It's a Japanese word that means, I don't know what the word means. I'm not sure about that. No, that doesn't work very well. Well, it won't, doesn't have a flat bottom, so it can't stand up by itself. This is used in ceremonies to, when someone is, tomorrow there'll be a ceremony here that, one of our monks, what's your name again? Nishikai. So, Nishikai will be sitting up here and we'll kind of put him on the spot. He's been studying to be a teacher for quite a number of years. And he's a fully ordained monk. He will sit up here we'll pull this seat out and he'll be sitting there. And that's used in the ceremony to put him on the spot. So in other words, he will take that shipei, and then someone will ask him a question. And I'll act like this is what he's going to do. Somebody go ahead and ask me a question.
What is Buddhism?
I don't know. And that's what he'll do. Or he'll talk a lot about Buddhism or something. But then someone else will ask you a question, and then he'll say, ask that on that. Ask another question.
What are the three poisons?
Very poisonous. Well, that's the second. So what you're doing is you're establishing yourself as a kind of, you could say, I guess, the word authority, like the boss, temporarily, of just that teaching. So you're holding forth and presenting yourself as a teacher. It's a way of training yourself. So we use the stick in that way. Does that help?
Yeah, I thought the stick was for the head.
Like that? Yeah, that's a more advanced teacher.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I find it really interesting and unique that the tradition is both Tibetan and
Yes.
Japanese and Zen. And so I just wondered, as you started in the Tibetan tradition with Trungpa Rinpoche, how you reconcile. I mean, I know there's way more things that are the same than different, but how do you reconcile that?
Well, first of all, I started in Zen.
Oh, okay.
So I started studying Zen back in some Tibetan, but Trungpa Rinpoche was a very powerful teacher for me, and I met him, and I was very, I really kind of was in love with Zen, but he's a powerful teacher. If you've read any of his works or books or anything, just amazing. So I was magnetized away from the teacher I was studying under at that time in the winter of 1974, Katagiri Roshi, who's now passed away also. So I was pulled back and forth between the two, and I never really left Zen for Tibetan Buddhism, nor did I. Didn't do a lot of picking and choosing that. It was about the teaching person, but coming together this is called the Order of Immediate Light, which I established that order a few years ago. And so in order to establish, and you could say stabilize, like there's a Tibetan altar here, which you practice Tibetan forms, and there's a Zen altar here, which also interesting, even though it's a Japanese Zen, this is a Chinese Buddha sitting over. It's not the style that you would see in a Zen monastery or temple. More? Way back there, yes.
You use the term training the mind.
Training, yes.
What do you mean by that, and why is it important to train the mind?
So the way we train the mind is to see the way in which it's untrained. So if you're going to train anything, if you're going to do weights, you start to lift weights, you notice that you're weak, you're not very strong. So you would just continue to do that exercise. In training the mind, what you're doing is you sit and hold very still, and you see the way in which the mind is chaotic. It grasps at this, it runs at that. We have a bunch of gossip going on about stories about ourselves, judgments about ourselves, judgments about others. The mind is just confusing. And we might not know that if we can just continue to use a third of the three poisons, distraction or ignorance, to just distract ourselves into playing pool or running track or doing, and not that those are wrong. It's just that we can use something like that to keep from looking at our mind. You can spend your whole life ignoring what's happening in the mind. So by training the mind, what you're doing, you're deliberately going to sit down. You don't have to be a Buddhist to do this. You can do this in your in your hallway, in your bedroom, just sit down, hold still, sit symmetrical and watch what happens in the mind. And this way, that part of the mind or consciousness that is aware, and that part of the mind that is thinking or processing or judging or evaluating or dealing with hope and fear and right and wrong, that is observed. So you're training the mind. So you're changing your identity over from a thinking person who likes and doesn't like and is operating out of fear, operating out of hope, operating out of all those things over to one who is just going to observe the birds flying through the mind, just observe them. And that way the mind becomes trained and the identity is slowly of the ego or the self-centered part of the mind would begin to see through that, but that's unreal. And what is real is consciousness. Yes.
Is there a certain place
Pardon me?
that you would get things? Like you have your table here and you have the statue
Yes.
and you have all these things on the
Where you get all that stuff?
Yeah.
Stores.
Is there
So
is there
I
a
built this
specific
table.
place?
I built this table. It's
Oh,
out.
yeah.
Hammer and nails and saw, wood lumber company. Yeah. Kind of crude, but anyway, that's a long time ago. That's and then this was this showed up through someone told us about this and we bought this Buddha, and when we bought it, it was just all a mess. It's probably a few hundred years old, came from China, and we people here in the monastery we got together and cleaned it up and put gold leafing on it. So that's all something we did here, right here. We're sitting right here and we did it. That's been about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Yes. Yes.
I have
Yes.
a lot of questions.
Yes.
Um,
Let me have the first thought.
what is the symbolism of the flowers at the altar? See
So-
that they're similar.
So this is just this is a mind training. So this is called Ikebana, comes from the Japanese tradition. And this represents heaven, earth, and man. This is the heaven part. This is the earth part of the lower, very lower area. That's earth. And this is man or woman or human beings.
Or child.
Exactly. This is probably the child part right there. So it's bringing together heaven, earth, and man in a presentation. If this is done with the idea of balancing, having this where one thing is not more important than the other, then they all come together, and we have what we call the common word is beauty. Something is beautiful. We're not sure why. It just seems to be a balance. So that's part of the practice is to do this. There's a few people here, Myoka, one of the monks here. I think you did this one, didn't you? So he's done. Different people do them. Yudao also does Ikebana. Other people in here I might not be mentioning are also doing Ikebana. Yes.
Why are the monks like dressed in all black and you're dressed in purple?
I make them do that. I want to be special. Purple just signifies that I'm the teaching person. I'm very old. So I've been doing this a long time, over 50 years. I've been studying. So they're all kids.
I have a question for you. When I was a young man, there was a lot of talk about the Dharma having gone to the West.
Yes.
And I think connected to some idea of capitalism taking over the East or some of the movements in the West.
Yes.
I don't know. But I wonder, is that still the way people think? Or is that what does it mean today in that different world?
I don't know. I think there are books written on it, and there's several books on it. And I'm not sure. It sounds like you've looked at it a little bit. If you can't come to some conclusions about it, they're probably just as accurate as anyone's. It's just, for me, it's very personal. I met my teacher who came from Tibet, and then after he passed 3 years later, I met my Zen master. So I had two different teachers. So to me, that's what it means for me. And now it's here, and now we're doing this, and it is not easy to do. We don't have this cultural support. If you went to Tibet, if you went to Japan, strong hundreds, thousands of years of support of this spiritual path. Here in this country, 3 doors away, they have no idea what we're even doing here. I'm sure it raises a little paranoia. But, hopefully not too much. I wanted to make sure I got all of your questions. We got 4 more.
What does it mean to be a monk in the United States now? Like you said, you don't have the cultural support. What brought you like to Battle Creek and
Okay, so I was born here, and so I think it might be better to ask people who are monks here. We'll start with you. What was your name again?
Ondo is my Dharma name. Joy is my given name. I came 5 years ago to Battle Creek, but I have been primarily in the Christian contemplative tradition, doing meditation for over 30 years. So it was easy transition for me to move from the Christian contemplative tradition into the Buddhism, especially I also went and got a social work or counseling. So I was doing a deep dive into psychology and understanding the mind in that way. This is a very powerful teaching in Buddhism to really help us understand our mind. That's what drew me here.
Thank you. Shoto.
I like how you talked about it, like this is a family monastery, so a few things like you're asking about what it means here. I can't speak for the whole country, but for here, you don't ordain nuns. Everyone's a monk, so there's not a division between the men and the women. We're not celibate, so there are married couples here, there are children here that are born here, and live here in the community with us. So it's definitely different. And I know traditionally the laity in the monastic community were separated, where there was more of an understanding of reincarnation, where they just knew they weren't ready to practice, so they would support the monks. Well, here there's not that division, so the laity and the monastic community are kind of the same. So you have people who are monks who still have to have jobs because we have to support ourselves.
Mozuku. What are you doing here?
I think it is really different for everybody how we end up on the path. How I moved to Battle Creek after I met Sokuzan as my teacher. I was living about an hour and a half away in the Ann Arbor area. Yeah, I think it's different for everybody. I took a year off of work this last year to just focus on practice. And I'm starting a job again tomorrow.
Nishikai. We'll do one more Nishikai, and then it should be easy for you to finish it up.
I think I became a monk just because of the amount of difficulty in my life, or just I've had a hard time relating with people and with myself, and just have a hard life, I think, and maybe found Buddhism to be the first workable way, rather than trying to improve myself or make myself better in some way. To just kind of see what I am without judgment. So I feel like that was the space. And then as far as the part about being a monk in our culture, I think it's very different for everyone. And I don't know. I don't even really know what it means to be a monk. It's a little bit confusing because of the amount of projection people put on a monk, or what that means to other people feels like it's stronger than how I'm showing up as a monk. I don't really think about it. I'm just a person, and it's important to me, but it's kind of a personal way, and I'm still kind of finding out what that means. So the difficulty for me is just kind of dealing with what people think a monk is, rather than my own relationship to being a monk.
Any further questions? I can pick on some more people.
You mentioned that there are families with kids. How are kids brought up in this tradition?
You could start with that. I think you have one kid.
I have a 2-year-old who just turned 2, and then we have another one in April coming. So I don't really know how to answer it, because she's 2, and even if she were to grow up, Buddhism isn't really about proselytizing, so I'm not gonna indoctrinate her. I don't know the word, but it's up to her. Her life is her own, and I want to support her in any way. But apart from that, she has kind of a large community support by living here, that there's a lot of people that I'm personally close to, because there's a community aspect to living in a monastery. So I feel like that's beneficial to her already, as far as being close with a lot of people who are also giving themselves a little bit of space with their mind stream and perhaps a little bit less reactive toward their environment. So I feel like it's a warm, welcoming environment for a kid, but nothing specifically because she lives in a monastery.
Do you like live here or do you like live somewhere else?
I live in a house just like 2 doors down. Yeah, and a lot of us live on different like apartments on campus. There's only a couple of rooms in this physical building people live in.
There's more? What?
You got 2 more.
I love how you said that you support your kids in whatever is right for them, it sounded like. Are older kids encouraged to participate in this kind of situation? What is the etiquette for like older kids?
Well, we relate to people where they're at. If children want to come in and practice, they can. And if they want to stay away and play with Legos in the other room, it's up to them. I've had really, really young people in here meditating. So it's so different with each child. Some people are not ready to do this and never will be ready. And they shouldn't be. They should do whatever they want with their life. So people, we need to respect people. That's the important thing in this community, is to respect people. That's hard to do. And it's hard to not project onto other people what they should be or doing, especially if they're your child and you have really strong feelings about what your children should be doing. 2 of my children, one of my children, and he's I don't know how old Takado is.
Could be 1966,
He's
so
old.
whatever that map is.
Yeah. Huh?
He's a year younger than me, he's 58.
58. So he's been a monk for over 30 years. He became ordained in Japan. He moved because he was living with me, so he got into Buddhism. So went to Japan and became a monk. And of my other children, they've all experienced some meditation. It's not been encouraged. It's been offered. You want to try this? Want to look at it? And all of them have done a little bit of meditating, but only he has become a monk. And then my daughter, who is a psychologist working in the VA, who's a PhD there in Philadelphia. She also has a regular ongoing practice, and she just recently came and spent about our whole month of February. It's all retreat practice, 8 hours a day of sitting meditation in here. And she came and participated in, it was the last week of it. So she's active in that. And we have other children. One of them's right upstairs. He's only 2. Is he up there right now? No, he's with his dad. Okay. So if he was there, you'd know.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Where is he?
That was Shoka.
Oh, there he is.
Can we see it? Yeah.
Hi. Hi, Elia. How you doing?
Good.
What did he say?
He said good. He's
Oh.
a little shy right now.
He's a little shy. I see. I'm a little shy too. He's very tiny. Further, there was a question right here. Yes.
Do you have lay people that come in and just join for the
Oh, yes.
talk?
Lay people, all on the screen. We've got, there's 30, 20, around 20, 25 people on the screen. They're as far away as, I don't know, where's everybody from? All over the place. As far away as, we had one student who is in Iran. So a long ways away, and in Greece, not a lot, but a few, and then in New York and Virginia that join. We have practices, a book study where we study books on Buddhism several times a week, and people join in and we study those every day. I'm in here teaching every single day, in one way or another. Yes. Yes, you.
So you've said a couple times, people should do what they want.
I didn't say that.
Something like that.
Well, yeah,
Which is very open,
It is
very open statement.
So we have forms, and I recommend that you observe the form, not obey the form. There's 2 O words: observe and obey. The West is full of obeying everything. And you should obey a stoplight. You should obey something you need to obey. But there are other things that you need to look at what that's about for you. So observing what's happening in your mind is what I'm interested in teaching. And one of the ways to do that is to slow way down, sit still, and watch the movement of the mind. So now go ahead with your question.
So, and you started to answer it, but in other religions, like there are the 10 Commandments, which
Yes.
are abiding principles. In Unitarian Universalism, we have
Yes.
abiding principles. Would you say there's something similar in Buddhism? Or is it truly kind of
I think-
whatever you find within your own consciousness?
I think it's similar. We have anyone who is fully ordained observes 16 precepts. And anyone here would be able to list those off, I think. But you observe them. You observe that. That means that no matter how that precept may go, like not to kill. That's the first grave precept in our lineage. You shouldn't kill. You can help it. You should not kill anything. But you may need to kill. You cannot. You don't have that much control. Just like you can't help but walk out on the street and notice you just stepped on a bug. You can't help that. So the idea is the intentional part of it. Also, it means that if you a lot of times there's differentiation between a lot of people to justify what they're doing, to explain it, whatever, philosophically, or it's okay to kill, it's not okay to kill a cow, but it's okay to kill asparagus. Still a living being. That's still, I'm not kidding you. I'm not saying that they're the same, but I'm saying that consciousness arises in many different forms. Sometimes it's moving around, and sometimes it's planted in the ground. Sometimes it's floating in the air. So it's about what? So observing that. If you want to observe that and be vegetarian, then you can do that here. We will support you doing that. But if you also feel like your health requires that you eat animal products in order for your health, some people really are dependent on that. People's physiology is much different. So we support that too, but we don't set up a rule where you have to be this or have to be that. I'm not saying there aren't a lot of Buddhist organizations that require vegetarianism. I would support, if somebody wants to do that, then they should do that more. Yes.
What's the process of becoming a monk?
What's the process?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the process? First, give me a lot of money. First, have an interest in study. If someone has wanted to be a monk and just came out and said, I want to do that right now, they would, I've had people come and say that right up front. That's what they want to do. Then I would say, then they go through training, which means study the Dharma, study with the Sangha. There's in Buddhism, there's something called the three jewels, and that's the Buddha, or the teacher, and the Dharma, or what is being taught, and the Sangha, or the community. And the idea is to connect with the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and slowly over time you'll see. I had one fellow come here who was here for, how long was Paushan here? A couple of years. Several years. And after talking to him in interviews and so on, I actually said to him, he came here with the idea of being a monk. And I said, I don't think you should be a monk. I said, if you really want this, I said, I will help you do it. But it seems that he said, yeah, I don't think I should either. Now that I've seen what monks do, and I've seen what I want to do with my life. And he eventually got married and moved to Wisconsin. And I don't know what's Paushan doing right now. He was extremely helpful to our community. He's just, and he's still a student of mine, so he's still practicing. But he is lay ordained. That his name, Paushan, in Chinese means running mountain. So he has the stability. He's very confusing to meet him. He's extremely stable and extremely intelligent. I hope he's not here. I don't want him to take this as a compliment.
Is he?
Paushan here? No, he's probably off somewhere doing something important. So, but very, very helpful to our community, and so the Paushan means running mountain. So the stability was in his ability to look at any project. How do you even say? He's just so good. He developed our website, very powerful fellow. The running part means that he's unpredictable. So you might think that he's doing this and this because everything looks like very well. And suddenly he just does something that's just totally outlandish. And it's something totally against something I said. Varmint. Not wrong, though. It's just his style, and that was part of it. I think he's better off practicing the way he's doing. He doesn't need to come in here and be fully ordained as a monk. It's just too strong a form for that particular gentleman. Yes.
So like a lot of religions have their ideas as to like what happens to you after you die. What's what does Buddhism believe in for that?
There's lots of speculation on it. You become, you die, and then you go into what's called the bardo, or the intermediate state, which is without a body, and then you can be taken this way and that way depending on the karma, on how you've lived. There's all kinds of speculation on it, and nobody really knows for sure. There's nothing. Have you ever read the Tibetan Book of the Dead? Okay.
No.
Well, check it out.
Well,
Several translations of it. It's very interesting, but I don't want. When I'm asked that question, I would have to say I haven't died yet, so I don't know. Get back with me later. So I'm just saying that it's consciousness is very, very, when the body goes away, the consciousness doesn't necessarily cease. So it's just like in a dream. You know how when you're having a dream, you have a kind of a dream body that does this and does that. And so it seems real in the dream, very convincing. But when we wake up, we realize that that's an illusion. That's not real. You could probably learn something about what you would want to know about the afterlife, so to speak, by observing your dreams. Okay. Back here. Let me go to right behind you. Okay.
Has anyone other than Buddha reached enlightenment?
I don't know. I haven't kept track of everybody, but probably. The whole idea of enlightenment looks like something you reach, whereas the way I understand it is something that is already there, that everyone here is enlightened. And even a great teacher of the previous century, Suzuki Roshi, would say in his teachings, he would say, everywhere I look, I see the Buddha. Everyone looks like the Buddha to me until they open their mouth. So it just, so everyone looks like the Buddha, so not separate. So it's more of an uncovering. Meditation helps you uncover your true nature. You see that you have always been awake. You've always been enlightened. You've always been completely at peace. Yes.
Oh, I was wondering if you could expound a little bit on the benefits that you have found and experienced from doing regular meditation practice.
It just keeps me from meddling with other people's lives. Help them where they're at. If they really want help, then I might be able to help them. But it helps me to relate to people where they're at, because I've spent quite a bit of time looking at who this is and where this is at. So I would say that would be a benefit to it. Just less of that. Doesn't end it. Because you just come out of nowhere and right out of the closet and hit you right over the head too. Have no control. The idea of control is something that's changed a lot. I really realized that I really don't have control over what, and I'm not going to get control over anything. So a much different way to live rather than continually trying to get your way and control things. Much different. This doesn't mean that you won't be swamped by those feelings of wanting control or wanting your way. More?
No, that's good.
Yes.
Then one of the monks says that you guys have 8 locations.
Have what?
8 locations.
8 buildings, yes.
8 buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Where are they?
Where?
Yeah.
There's one there, one over there, one over there, and one over there. There's one out there. And there's one over there. Yeah.
So they're like on Battle Creek.
Oh yeah, they're just just walking distance. You can just go out and walk right over to one of them. If you got a key, you can get in. More? Yes, sir.
How important are all of the forms, all of the things?
The things are, this is a practice that is not a theistic. The theistic is something is higher, you have to reach it. And a non-theistic is you have to just see what this is. So it doesn't, we're not doing away with theism. You can, maybe that's your life, maybe that's what you need to practice, and that's respected. But the forms are just meant to remind you, this is a sutra that's been copied. We had a practice here where all we did is copy these sutras by hand. I don't know who did this one. Anybody know? Somebody copied these sutras, and they're hanging different places. That's one of them. It's just a reminder of, I don't know how else to say it other than just, it's a reminder. It creates the atmosphere so that you can come in here. Not much happens in this room other than what we're doing here and meditation practice. And the whole month of February, all 28 days was spent with an emphasis on, you come in, the dawn in front rings the gong, no sutras are chanted, hits the gong, and for 1 month, people just sit here. If I'm here, I sit here. Other monks sit here and face the wall all the way down here, other meditators, including people who may never only come just that one day. They come in and they see there's no fee being charged. We receive donations, but we don't always. I think that we charge fee for
Suggested donation.
It was a suggested donation. Yes.
What is that poster, like, banner name?
One on the main one above the orange altar.
Yeah.
That's a Kagyu lineage. It shows the various teachers back through the centuries, back to the founding of the Kagyu lineage in Tibetan Buddhism. I don't remember the century that was, but it's been 800-900 years ago. And so that's something that if someone is practicing those practices in Tibetan Buddhism, that's something they would bow to or even prostrate to and chant mantras or visualize that. So in other words, they look at it and then they would perhaps close their eyes, not always, but perhaps close their eyes and visualize that. Then they might do a particular practice. Those practices are very complicated. I'm not sure how much information you wanted in that area, but you could do 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 repetitions of the Vajrasattva mantra, 100,000 offerings to the mandala, and 1,000,000 recitations of Guru Yoga. And you would count them on a mala. So if you ever counted to 1,000,000? It takes quite a while. Yes. Yes.
What's the pot under the table for?
That was made by my son in Korea. He made that ceramic, and that's has I think it has charcoal in it, doesn't it? And the charcoal is meant it comes out of there and goes up into this burning container here when offerings are made or when certain chanting is done. Yes, sir.
So like Buddhism was founded around Buddha. Did Buddha believe in Buddhism, or was that something that came after him? Was it just like what he was teaching?
I think it was
named.
I think it was. He was originally was a Brahmin. He was a part of the ancient Indian spiritual path. So, but he had a different understanding, and he began to teach a few people, and a few people kind of came on board with him, and he had a group of monks, and that was in ancient India that I don't know how else to say it. I wasn't there, but it looks like that was he got a lot of support from the community there in ancient India. So, but yeah, Buddha really wasn't a Buddhist. He just taught something that became Buddhism. Kind of like, I don't know if you'd say Christ wasn't a Christian. I don't know, was he? I mean, that's speculation.
Jewish.
Huh?
I think he was Jewish.
I think you're right. Thank you. Interesting. I don't know. Shisho was Buddha a Brahmin? What was he?
Kishwa. He was not a Brahmin. He belonged to the warrior class.
Warrior class. Kshatriya.
Kshatriya.
Yeah. So what was their spiritual path? You recall?
Theirs was to really govern and rule and those kind of things and fight wars.
And
That was
fight
the
wars,
primary thing, fight wars.
Yeah.
Soldiers.
So he stopped being a fighter and started being meditative. Yes. Get to you next.
When Buddha, like, I don't know how to say this, when he uncovered enlightenment
Thank you.
and
You remembered.
learned about nirvana.
Yes.
Is nirvana like the place you see, or is it like a feeling?
I can point right to nirvana. I can't get to you, but I can point to this. And nirvana is right here. Not a place. It's without location. Just like this clock has location. If I move it, it's in a different location. That's relative truth. This is ultimate truth. Even though this is a physical form and this is a physical form, this is where it's seen because it's consciousness. You have to see it. If you're interested, then keep looking there. More?
I noticed during the practice, one of the monks put like a words are failing me. Like lit something on fire and set it in the bowl.
Yes.
What's the symbolism for that? Because I'm watching it burn down now.
Makes sense.
That.
Incense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of an offering. Mozart, do you want to maybe else say?
That's how I understand it, or how I've heard you teach it. It's an offering, your generosity.
Very good. Yeah, as you're practicing, the idea in Buddhism, one of the things is called dana or generosity. So you give something. So you give incense. You offer light. You offer incense. You offer flowers. There's a tea offering there. You're actually offering. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
So are you taking anything away from there, do you think? What do you take?
You're like offering the smell of the incense.
Yeah, you are. Very good. Thank you. So I can take maybe one more question or if there's one anymore.
So is it more about the giving than it is about something else receiving the offering?
So giving, the way I say it is give everything your attention. And this is a way of practicing that. So give it your attention. You can't offer incense unless you're paying attention. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing. So anytime I come to this, I practice every day by just looking at this altar and observing where everything is placed. And if I move something on it, I'm not correcting it. I'm just moving it. It's not a correction. Very interesting area to work with, because then you notice in your own mind how much you're using right and wrong to kind of justify how you're feeling, how you're acting, how you're reacting, and so on. So then the receiving part, that's the giving part. The receiving part is practiced on the cushion. Sit down and receive everything that arises in the mind. And that way, when you go out into your everyday life, what we call post-meditation, or other than sitting practice, you're able to receive everything that happens. And that's very, very hard to receive everything that's happening. Because sometimes the things that are happening seem wrong. And they shouldn't be happening. And we need to stop that. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And should we stop it? In some cases we probably should, but it's very situational. And so by practicing the sitting meditation, your intelligence and your insight around the situation that's arising is starting to come out of your intelligence and if you even use the word compassion, or your fundamental caring for everything, rather than just hope or fear that something's wrong, or hope that you can modify or change something. Very difficult to do. I still work with this every day. I've not accomplished a damn thing. I mean, nothing's been accomplished here. I'm still looking at it. Very good. Evelyn?
How can you teach if you're not above us?
That's the only way I can teach. I can't teach anybody anything unless I'm relating to the very same thing you're working with. The very same difficulty, the very same negativity. If I become some above that, and I'm not saying there aren't people who don't teach in that way, teach about get out of that, get away from that. And I teach, look right at it, sit right in the middle of it, liberate yourself by seeing that you never were in a prison. That's an illusion. Thank you so much.
My name is Mozuku, and I am one of Sokuzan's monks. Sokuzan's teachings and this community depend on your generosity, both through your participation and financially. If you value these teachings and this community, please consider donating on our website at sokukoji.org. Thank you so much.